Global Connections. I'm Patrick Bratton on Think Tech TV. I'm here going to be talking where we bring Hawaii to the world and the world to Hawaii. And so I have the pleasure to be joined today by two of my current undergraduate students at Hawaii Pacific University, Madison Bonney and Amanda Fish. And we're going to be talking about their different experiences in school, study abroad, working, and some of their plans for the future. So thank you, Madison and Amanda, for joining us here at Think Tech. Is this your first time for both of you on Think Tech?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's quite an exciting show that Jay and all sort of studio that Jay has set up. So both of you are majors in international studies, correct, at Hawaii Pacific?
Yes.
And whereabouts are you in your studies? Juniors, sophomores?
I'm a senior. I graduate next December.
Okay.
I'm in my second semester of my third year.
Second semester of your third year. Okay, sounds good. So you've been here for a couple of years at the university. Most people, oftentimes, we bring in students from all over, as Oahu is sort of the gathering place, you know, and people come here from all over the United States, all over the world. Where were you from, if you will?
I'm from San Jose, Northern California.
Okay, San Jose.
And I'm from Southern California in Lake Elsinore.
Okay, you guys don't have any NorCal, SoCal fighting that happens?
No, we got over that a long time ago.
Okay, good, excellent. And so did you come in as freshmen into HPU, or did you transfer in from another school? Or?
Yeah, freshman.
Okay. What was your high school experience like in San Jose? Or?
My high school was actually kind of neat in that I was a minority. I was in an area where there was a census tract of 7,000 and 4,000 of them were Vietnamese.
Okay.
So that was cool.
Okay, so interesting. And then had you thought about what you wanted to study when you were going on, or you were just going to go to college, or did you want to major in what? Or?
I actually, since I was little, wanted to major in marine biology. I thought that would be like the perfect job interview of, hi, I'm Amanda Fish. I'm here for your fish, please hire me. And then I did one semester of marine biology at Hawaii Pacific and thought, oh no, that's not going to work for me. So I switched to international studies.
Okay, that's funny. I actually had a similar experience when I was an undergrad. I had this naive dream of being a double history and wildlife management biologist. And I took one semester of biology, and it was a bit better than I was, shall we say. So didn't continue that. How about yourself, Maddie?
I just went to a really competitive high school and it had this weird system where you had, I think, everyone who had above a 4.0 was considered a valedictorian, and so we all were just kind of fighting to the end to get the most credentials. And I was like Amanda, where I came in as a marine biology major. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I switched my majors around and came back to international studies eventually, and I'm pretty happy with it. So.
Okay. So you both had shared interest independently in different places in California for marine biology. I mean, what drew you to marine biology? I mean,
well, I grew up at the beach almost every week, so
okay.
I always just wanted to be in the water, but I just can't do the math or the science. So.
Okay.
My grandma lived by the beach in Santa Cruz, California. So whenever I would go there, I really enjoyed it, and she would take me to look for rocks that had fossils in them of all the different sea creatures that had used to be in the area. And so I did a scuba certification down in Southern California, and it was really what I wanted to do, and then it wasn't.
Okay, right. Okay, but maybe keeping with our kind of maritime ocean theme, then you both decided, again, to go and look at HPU in Hawaii. I mean, why Hawaii, in a sense? I mean,
well, I was accepted under the presidential scholarship, so from my family's personal financial situation, that was really appealing, and I had no idea where I wanted to go anyway. I applied to at least 11 different schools.
Okay.
So by the time that came around, I'm like, I think this is pushing me in the right direction, and it's worked out really well.
Okay.
I'm pretty similar to Maddie, actually. I had 9 schools that I applied to, and Hawaii was the only one not in California. It was actually my backup school. I wasn't interested in it, and then Hawaii Pacific gave me the Dean Scholarship, and I thought, oh, money, I should look into you more. And the more I looked into it, because I had never paid much attention to it, the more I liked that it was so international. I liked that it was in Hawaii, and that would be kind of like a new adventure for me. And I had never really been super independent. I was always very kind of needy for my parents, and I thought it would be a good way to kind of grow up a bit to go to school out of state.
Okay, right. Yeah, you kind of a new start, a new area, away from family. Interesting. I mean, one of the things that is often sort of almost like a meme in Hawaii is, the image that people have of Hawaii before they come, and then the experience of particularly living here, not so much visiting, but actually sort of trying to make your way in Hawaii. I mean, what would be sort of like something that you found that was quite different from your previous conception of Hawaii compared to living in here?
Well, actually, my dad used to live on Oahu, and my grandma used to live here as well. So I had my own conceptions of what they thought it was, and when they were here, it was a different time in that my dad would have like experience of people calling him a haole and not liking him because he was white and not Hawaiian and didn't grow up here. So I kind of came here thinking that no one was gonna like me. But that's not true at all. Everyone's really friendly. You call your waiters and waitresses like auntie and uncle, and it's awesome.
Okay. So more friendly than you had anticipated.
Oh, yeah, way
which
more
is
friendly.
a good thing, right?
Aloha spirit.
Right? Maddie?
For me, it was just the shock that Honolulu really is a big city. I mean, a lot of people don't think that. I mean, I grew up in a nowhere town where it was just, I went to the same family-owned pet store and grocery store and everything. So it is like coming to a big city for me. It was a new experience, and taking public transportation. I was expecting it more to be tropical because I didn't get to come visit the campus before I was going to attend here. So it was just kind of jumped in and got the bigger city experience than what I'm used to.
Okay, so kind of a double experience for you, not just Hawaii being someplace different, but also in terms of having an urban sort of metropolitan experience, not compared to coming from the small town.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, interesting. I mean, was there anything, about maybe the university in a sense that drew you, to the place? I mean, something because it was international, or it had programs that you liked, or?
Well, coming in wanting to do marine biology, I was really attracted to that third campus. I thought that I could get my bachelor's here and then work on the third marine biology campus and help do some research and just keep trucking through and have my whole education in one place. But it ended up being really good now that I'm an international studies major. It's a very diverse university. I have friends from all over the United States and the world. It's worked out really well. It's a really integrated campus with like who attends. So
It was kind of really the same for me. And one thing that I would add is a lot of people that I know weren't too happy when they visited and saw that the downtown campus isn't really a campus in the traditional sense of a university, that it's just kind of sporadic buildings and it's integrated into a lot of shops and restaurants. But I actually really like that atmosphere. I really like that there's just this long walkway with cafes where people are all sitting and talking, and if you have to go into a class, you duck into this building or that building. I went to a traditional looking school all through high school, and it was huge, and there was 4,000 kids, and I was tired of it. So I like how open HPU is. Even with the Loa campus up in Kaneohe, I really liked that it was not traditional.
I mean, this is something that it always kind of depends on the sort of college experience that someone might envision in their minds. The last place I worked at a place called Washington College on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and that was very the traditional East Coast sort of brick and mortar, 18th century building, sort of bucolic, sort of East Coast four-year college sort of atmosphere. And there's something to that. Schools kind of like HPU or maybe like George Washington University in DC, you've got the urban atmosphere, you've got interplayed with shops, and you're in the sort of hustle and bustle of the city. Right. And I think there's pluses and minuses to both, but it's kind of interesting to see not everybody wants necessarily that traditional sort of small school out in the middle of nowhere sort of atmosphere. So both of you guys are interested in doing international studies. I mean, are there certain issues or regions that sort of call to you and why you got interested? Often people might be interested in development or human rights or terrorism, or they really want to study China or Latin America. I mean, what's the thing that sort of hooked you in a sense, for international studies? Maddie?
I have always been really drawn to South Asia and India particularly. I was fortunate that when I was younger I got to sort of tag along with my mom on her business trips, and so I've got family friends out there, and it's just the culture and everything about it just appeals to me. So through that and a couple courses I've taken, I've grown to really be attracted to their domestic issues, like women's rights and issues like that. I actually ended up minoring in gender and women's studies just to further extend my interest and my degree into that, but hope to keep looking into that.
Okay. What parts of India did you travel with your family?
Stayed around Delhi mainly. Just kind of did Shishi India for the most part, honestly.
Okay.
Just stayed in a nice hotel that our family friend worked for, and honestly just got kind of pampered as the cute little blonde kid that got to walk around everywhere.
Okay, right. Interesting. Amanda?
I took French in high school, so I've always really liked France and learning about their culture and their language, and also like the Francophile countries and the countries that spoke it. I really liked learning about all of them. So when I studied abroad, that's why I picked France. But what I've liked about at HPU is that I was able to kind of diversify that. So it's not just France within the European context, but that branched me into Vietnam and their history of Vietnam being part of the Indochina colony. And like Maddie, I really like Southeast Asia in terms of Vietnam. And now I'm kind of branching out in Asia in more of a direction in terms of like Japan and Korea, particularly Korea now because I've picked like a direction that I want to head and do peace building and conflict management. And I really like the North and South Korea conflict. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you've been able to kind of take a language or a cultural institution and shift it into different countries. I mean, have you guys found something like coming in with interest? Have you also maybe discovered sort of new issues or new regions that you hadn't really thought about, but you took a class maybe or had a classmate from a country in question that kind of broadened you or shifted you into a different direction? Amanda?
I took a politics of terrorism class with Dr. Jim Prim at HPU, and what I really liked about that class was we had a guest speaker who was a consulate general from the United Arab Emirates,
Right.
And he kind of talked to us about their perspective on the situation with the Middle East and how they view it from a Muslim perspective, which I had never really been exposed to before. So it was very interesting to kind of hear how they view things, how they justify things, and what their perspective is, not only of the other Middle Eastern countries that are their neighbors, but of the West.
Okay, yeah, I remember when he came and visited, he gave a couple of presentations. Quite a dynamic speaker.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Maddie?
I took a couple of geography classes with Dr. Merrick, and he likes to focus on just urban placemaking, and so he does a lot of work on New Zealand, and we always learned a little bit about places that are kind of similar to Hawaii in that they have this glamorous look from the outside that they're just paradise, but when you get down to it, there's some real issues for people that are actually from here. And that was a really new perspective for me. Like I learned of all the current issues that are going on for local Hawaiians and Native Hawaiians and trying to claim their place where their heritage is from, and then alongside other places that he himself is doing his own studies. And it really opened my eyes to just this kind of mask that's going over all these great tourist locations and makes me want to look a little deeper into it. So.
Okay. Well, we'll have a quick break, and we'll have some promotions of some of the other shows that are on Think Tank. We'll be right back.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hitchell, and I host the show called Climate Change Beyond Outrage. We go beyond outrage to find solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. I hope you will join me here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We broadcast live from thinktechhawaii.com. Aloha and bye-bye.
Okay, I'm Jay Fidel, that's Ray Starling. We co-host a show called Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. It's really interesting. You know, Ray has a way of unzipping these guys. He asks them these questions and all this stuff tumbles out, and we find out stuff we would never know about without Ray's questions. Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome, Jay. I'm very pleased to be your Ed McMahon every Wednesday at 4 o'clock here on the internet. So you can join us and see what's happening in the energy world, and there is a lot going on. So join us every Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, come around, be energized right here on Think Tech. Aloha.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Hello and welcome back to Global Connections. I'm Patrick Bratton, talking with a couple of undergraduate students from HPU, Amanda Fish and Madison Bonney. Before the break, we were talking about some of your studies and experiences that you've had. One thing I'm always quite curious about with students is, I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but I think it's actually quite true. It's not a cliche. We often say as professors is that we learn actually a lot of things from our students, because our students will ask questions that might not have been asked, or asking them in a different way. And they might also be interested in research topics or issues that we ourselves are not that familiar with. And so we actually learn a lot through seeing you guys do interesting projects. So I just wonder if you guys maybe had a project or two that you'd worked on that really you found you got a lot of, one, you learned a lot out of it, but maybe it changed you in certain ways or changed your outlook. Yeah?
Actually, I think that one of the papers that I wrote that really kind of affected me was a paper I wrote for your class, for your comparative politics class, where I had to compare the political economies of France and Vietnam, which I thought would be very easy because those are two countries that I'm very interested in and very kind of familiar with in terms of culture. But I never really focused on economics. I'm terrible at math.
Right.
So that was never something that I've had an easy time with, and it was a cool project because I had such a preconception going into it of, yeah, I know this, okay, they're going to be connected, colonialism, historical context, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't end up that way, and as I discovered that through the research process, it really kind of forced me to dig deeper when I wanted to write my paper. So I think that really kind of impacted not only how I approach two countries or a region or an issue if I'm going to be researching it, is to kind of throw away any preconceived notions I have, but to also just kind of have a preparation in mind of, you're going to have to do a ton of research, get a notebook.
Right. I mean, it's quite surprising. I mean, one of the debates, I mean, in a lot of the, you mentioned your interest in sort of not just France, but also, you know, the sort of Francophone world that's mostly been connected, you know, through either the French or the Belgian former colonial empires. I mean, one of the debates that often happens with sort of post-colonial studies is, if you're looking, is the colonial experience sort of a rupture with the past, and since it breaks with the past and then everything is different once decolonization happens? Or should you conceptualize sort of the colonial period as a parenthesis, in a sense that it's a continuation of previous things, but in a slightly different way, and then there's sort of more continuity from the pre-colonial and then post-colonial experience? I mean, when you're thinking about maybe the research that you did with Vietnam, I mean, is Vietnam a place where there was sort of a rupture, or is there less, say, colonial French influence than you would think, or what would you hear?
I think that the influence that you do see from France is so small that you almost wouldn't even recognize it as being French influence unless you knew French, quite frankly. I mean, I learned that the Vietnamese word for lime, they don't have a word for lime. To them, it's green lemon. Yep. And at first I thought, oh, that's nothing. But the reason it is that is because that's the way French works.
Citron vert.
So that, you know, you don't think of that just looking at Vietnam by its own context. It's only when you take into consideration they had a period of time in which people learned French and in which trade forced upon them by colonialism brought different fruits and vegetables that they would have not known, and therefore took the name of whatever it was in French and then kind of twisted it. I mean, there's a high school that I have a friend from HPU who went to called Marie Curie High School in Saigon, which now, I wouldn't expect a Vietnamese high school to be called Marie Curie, but there you go. It's just little tiny details that really kind of jump out at you once you learn more about a subject.
Interesting. Madison, how about for yourself? I mean, have you found a research project that really was of great interest or maybe changed your outlook?
Continuing with the India theme, I took a history course on India, and my final paper was on the effects of the 2012 Delhi gang rape on helping women's status in India. And it really just went back, everything goes back to the roots of it. I mean, yes, India went through a great colonization of the British Raj, but it began with, you know, the Mughals and all these different cultures that integrated, and it kind of went back to the caste system, and it was just this legacy of sort of categorizing people within the caste, and then it led to this mistreatment of people, or this stereotypical treatment of, women, and then this just ridiculous act of the 2012 gang rape just sort of shocked everyone in the system of India, and it just caused all these movements. Like there's the pink sari movement for more rural areas where there are these women that dress in pink saris and just sort of are a presence. They consider themselves a gang, but they're just like a presence that we're not going to stand for this, and it really, though it was terrible, caused a great amount of movement and call for change. And I don't know, I really appreciate that it, even though it was terrible, it was cool seeing that just one event can really change everything or cause just everyone to work towards a different goal. So.
Okay, so the project that you did there and looking at making you sort of aware of the importance of a lot of these gender issues and women's issues in South Asia.
And understanding that, everyone has a unique history that can affect their current course of action, and it may just take one little notch for it to change. And importance of history, basically.
Okay, interesting. I want to carry this discussion and talk about some of your guys. One of the things I always like to stress with students is, there's the educational side, which is very important, right? Taking classes, getting the degree, but there's also sort of the experiential part, whether that's studying abroad, whether that's working. And one thing I firmly believe in is students to try and integrate that process and not just concentrate on working or school, but see if you can blend them, if you will. So I wanted to maybe kind of talk about some of your experience that you both have had doing that. So you had mentioned earlier, Amanda, that you had done a study abroad in France last fall or last spring?
Last fall.
Last fall. And so where were you based?
I was in Paris,
Mm-hmm.
which was amazing. It was so culturally, very different than anything I had ever experienced before. And the city, not necessarily culture shock, because it wasn't terribly difficult for me in that I already had some French-speaking skills, but just kind of like the mentality you have of the tiniest of things, of going to the grocery store, of, okay, I need to buy this, but how do you say that in French? And so you Google Translate something just to go to the grocery store so you know what to look for. And what I really liked about that was the school that I went to, it was very small, and being in a French class, being taught French by a French teacher, in the US, if you're learning a language and you have a question, you can just kind of ask it.
Right.
And you can break from your second language, but that didn't work in Paris. If you have a question, you better know how to ask that question in French. Otherwise, sorry. But it honestly helped me learn a lot better. Like if I saw a word that I didn't know and I wanted to ask my teacher, he had to explain it in French. So you really had to have not necessarily a huge vocabulary base, because gestures go a long way, but the intuition and the context clues to kind of really pick up what someone is saying. And people communicate differently in different cultures. Certain cultures are much more blunt or much more polite than others. And for France, I found that to be a huge factor in whether I was really grasping the definition of whatever it was that I was learning.
So what did you? I mean, I often find Americans in particular, but other peoples as well, sort of fixed sort of stereotypes about France and French people and Parisians in particular, I guess. What did you find where you found, like I say, a stereotype that was basically bunk, if you will, not true, and then maybe one that might actually be a helpful generalization?
It's going to sound silly, but a lot of people think that French people are very snobbish.
Right.
And it's not so much that they're snobbish or even prideful, really. It's just that they tend to have, what I found to be true at least, is they tend to have very strong senses of identity. Of, I am French, and this is me, and who are you? And that, in a way, sometimes would startle me, but in another context, it was really kind of amusing, especially if I was speaking French, because I don't have a French accent. So they would ask, where are you from? And you say, oh, I'm from the US. And then they just look at you like, then why do you speak French? Because they have the conception of, why would an English speaker speak French if you're not within Europe? Not very many Americans learn French. So to them, that was a very kind of different expectation, I think, that they had And it was fun, but it was also kind of shocking where sometimes if I did respond that I'm American, that they would just switch to English.
Yep.
Which at first you think, oh, it must be my French, it's terrible. But the more you talk to them, the more you realize that they're either just trying to practice their own English now that they have someone they can practice with, or they're just trying to be helpful.
Right.
They understand that speaking French, if you're not a native speaker, can be difficult. And because they all pretty much learn English, they're just trying to help you out and make things go faster.
Okay. What area were you living in?
Montmartre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very romantic. Very
I know. I was a couple minutes away from the Basilique Sacré-Cœur, so casual walking up to a beautiful monument,
As one does.
as one tends to do when one is in Paris.
Right. Maybe to on a more serious note, I mean, so you were there during the attacks then?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
what
I
was
was.
your sort of impression, or how did that affect you?
It was very strange. The night itself, I had been out to dinner with friends, and it was only as we were leaving the restaurant that one of my friends said, "Hey, I think some bomb went off somewhere." I said, "Really? Well, that's weird." And you don't think anything of it because in today's day and age, you hear about that stuff and you go, oh, and you kind of desensitize yourself to it a lot. And then my roommate and I got home and I said, hey, let's Google that. Let's see if it really happened. And the more you checked online, as the hours are kind of ticking by, is you're seeing your Facebook feed blowing up. My study abroad program was emailing us, calling us, trying to find out where everyone was.
Yep.
I got an email saying, "Where's your roommate? Is she okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, she's right next to me. Like, we're fine. We're at home." And as soon as you realize, oh, something really bad is happening, first instinct of child is call parents.
Right.
At the very least, just to say, hey, I'm okay. And I called my dad first, and I said, hey, I'm just letting you know some things are happening, not too sure. It'll be okay, though. Like, I'm fine, just letting you know. Call my mom. She's totally chill with it, because they really haven't heard anything yet. And then as more hours go by, and it's like 2 in the morning, and things have settled down, but you really start to hear, like, this is how many people are dead, that, this is bad. And the next day, my roommate and I talked about it. It was really, really strange, where we had to go out and meet at a cafe with some classmates for a project, which terribly ironically was on peace building.
Wow.
And as we're sitting there, it's dead silent, first of all. I mean, where I lived, I'm right next to a monument, so there should be tourists, there should be movement. There's nobody.
Yeah.
No one. And then you see French military police, fully decked out, huge guns, just walking by, keeping it casually calm. And you don't feel scared, especially as an international studies major. I know that once an attack or a series of attacks is over, that it's quiet after. But you feel anxious. It's this little kind of pit in your stomach of, this doesn't feel normal. And then, my parents are freaking out back home. 3 kids in my program went back to the US within that week. I was really fortunate in that I wasn't nearby, but I had friends who walked by, and my host dad a couple days later took us to the Place de République to look at the candles and the incense and the flowers and the like graffiti, and I guess like a shrine almost that the French people had left for those who had died. And it was the first time I'd ever seen something like that, and it was really quite powerful.
Interesting. Maddie, you've been doing you've been a federal work study student now,
Yes.
and doing work on, well, for a lot of people, the federal work study program is kind of sometimes a catch-all of various tasks that other people don't want to do in life. But you've been involved in some interesting projects that you've been doing, for a lot of the professors at the university, right?
Yeah, it's been a real learning experience. I'm a federal work studies student for the Department of History and International Studies. I work for you. And then, this is about the end of my second year doing this, and I've done lots of research projects I've done things for Watley in the master's program, and I've done work for professors that I have courses with, and it's really just extended my skills and my capability of finding information and seeing how it fits into the bigger picture of what they're looking for. And it's really given me a lot of skills in how to, I could take it past college, if I decided to work at a think tank, or if I wanted to work for some sort of research facility, I could, take my skills and take my little USB drive and be like, I did this, I've done all of this, and it's given me more real work experience than anything else. I was actually pleasantly surprised. So, and it's been really cool, but just work experience. So fun work experience.
All right, we're going to be having another short break, and we'll be right back with Global Connections.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen, host of Likeable Science on Think Tech Hawaii. Come join us every Friday at 2 p.m. when I interview interesting scientists about what they do, why they do it, and why we should all care about it. It's a lot of fun to see. We hear, and you can learn interesting stuff. You'll hear all kinds of fascinating science, and we know you'll have a great time. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Aloha, this is Reg Baker, and I am the host of Business in Hawaii. We talk about positive stories of businesses in Hawaii, how they have been successful, and how they have overcome some of the obstacles that a lot of us encounter when we try to have a business here. And believe it or not, there are a number of positive stories here, and we want to talk to all of you. So we broadcast live every Thursday at 2 o'clock, and it rebroadcasts again on Olelo Channel 54. So I sure hope to see you next time. Please tune in on Thursdays at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to Global Connections. I'm Patrick Bratton talking with a couple of students, Amanda and Madison. Before the break, Madison was talking to us about some of her work as a federal work-study student. I mean, what are some of the projects that you're doing, that you've worked on?
The most in-depth one that I've been working on since the first semester that I started working for this department is for Dr. Marek. He, like I said earlier, is into urban placemaking and in indigenous development, and his current research is focused on the population of people in Kaka'ako area, which is kind of halfway between Waikiki and where the university is. And it's just, there's lots of controversy there. I mean, there's lots of development going on there. They have lots of car dealerships and a new UH medical center, and it's just a highly developing area. But it also is a place where a lot of homeless people on the island migrate towards. And on island, it just happens to be that the majority of the homeless people are Micronesian or local Hawaiian, and it's just this strange conflict where, you know, they want the development to continue, but they also want to help those that are homeless and here on the island. And so my research for him has just been, you know, what's going on with land ownership there and how it's transpiring. And when people purchase land to build something new in that area, what are the conflicts with locals that are getting in the way? I mean, there have been plenty of incidences outside of Kaka'ako where someone purchased a plot of land and they started doing construction and they found ancient Hawaiian remnants. And it's this big conflict, and it's sadly, some of the times, you know, the big businesses can just kind of buy silence, and, you know, these sacred ancient Hawaiian remnants and cemeteries basically get, you know, just pushed aside. And it's just kind of a struggle between, you know, cultural respect and desire to enterprise. But it's just something I would have never thought would happen here, but it's been really interesting.
Okay, interesting. What I wanted to do, maybe we've just got a few minutes left in the show, and maybe talk a little bit about probably the questions that you often maybe have anxiety about or hate it when your parents ask you, but some of the plans that you might have post-graduation. And it's interesting, I mean, one of the sayings I always have for the students is that if you study sort of social science or humanities sort of topics, you know, they're not topics that, they're not really degrees in a sense that you pull out the papers, want ads, and you find a job. Not that anyone actually looks for jobs in a paper anymore, but it's not one of those. And particularly, it's an area where you have to be sort of entrepreneurial, creative, and thinking about what you would like to do, because there are jobs, very interesting things to do out there. But kind of planning it is something that you've got to spend a lot of time on. So, what are some things that you guys are thinking about in terms of both graduate school, or maybe doing some travel, or looking into work? Where you guys see yourself in a couple of years from now?
Because I'm graduating on an off semester ahead of schedule, a lot of the grad schools that I'm looking at going into possibly don't do rolling admission. So I essentially have like 8 or 9 months to kill of time. Mm-hmm. And I've decided for grad school at least that I want to focus on peace building and conflict management, conflict resolution. So I know that that's my program to look for in terms of researching grad schools and stuff. But if it is a school like one of the ones that I'm looking at now is in San Diego, because I've always wanted to move there with my brother, I'll have several months to kill, and I don't know if I want to try and find a job, but because I've more recently developed an interest in Korea, and I was very fortunate enough that when I studied abroad in Paris, I became super close friends with one of my international classmates from Korea. And she's really kind of opened a lot of doors for me in terms of learning the language. So based on that and the fact that I had a friend at Hawaii Pacific from Texas who taught herself Korean and now works for a Korean company, I thought, why not learn another language? I already speak English, which is a huge asset to me. I speak French, which is a huge asset in Europe, but it would be nice to speak like a secret one. Like you wouldn't look at me and think, she's definitely a Korean speaker. So this semester I've started to teach myself the Hangul Korean alphabet, and I'm currently looking into summer programs and spring programs, for language intensive universities in Seoul. And the nice thing about having my friend from Paris who's Korean is she's able to tell me like, oh, you can live here. Oh, my mom will totally feed you. Like, so that's kind of where I'm headed, I think.
Okay, interesting. I mean, the nice thing too as well with Korea and Seoul, I mean, there's so many good universities. Many of the universities have English language MA programs in international studies, conflict resolution, Ewha University, Sogong, and many of the others. I mean, it's a really interesting place to go as an international student and study, and then you don't have to get the language level to do sort of the graduate work is quite a burden, but if you've got it in English and can be learning Korean on the side, I mean, it'd be pretty interesting. So you get a master's degree in sort of peace and conflict studies, and then what would you like to do?
I'm not 100% positive. I'm not a type of person who like has this giant dream job. Like I always say, I don't have dreams, I have goals. So right now, goal is graduate, and then the goal is get into grad school, and then, little kind of increments for myself, but tentatively eventually going to the East Coast, Washington, D.C. area, and maybe doing some work with the U.S. Institute of Peace or a nonprofit, or we'll see.
Okay, good. It's always good to be flexible. Have goals, but be flexible. Maddie, how about yourself? What are you planning for after graduation?
Just like it was hard for me to find out what college I wanted to go to, I have a wide variety of interests that I would like to possibly pursue. So I'm just kind of waiting until the doors open. But one idea I had was that I could, go to grad school, hopefully in the South somewhere. I've never really experienced it. Just continuing with international relations, I could potentially decide to join the Peace Corps. I need to do some volunteer work for that. But something that's been more appealing to me lately is going to law school and maybe long-term down like the road becoming a judge or something. I'm very interested in civil law, like in the individual, and just helping people on a one-on-one basis. I'm not interested in helping or supporting big companies. So if I could help people one-on-one, but still, maintain my own personal dignity, that would be pretty great. So
that's always a good goal to have when you're doing things, maintaining dignity. Have you thought about I know we've talked a little bit about this, but maybe given your interest in India, I mean, have you thought about spending some time doing some language classes or anything? Or
I haven't really looked into it. It would be very interesting, but I'm not sure. I'm currently taking Spanish, so I might try checking out like South America area, but that would probably be the extent of the language for right now. We'll see as soon as I conquer Spanish. We'll see where I can go next.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for joining us here in Think Tech. I hope it won't be the last time to see you on, and good luck in your studies. And to everybody out there, I'm Patrick Bratton. This is Global Connections on Think Tech. I'd like to thank Jay, Zuri, and Nick, and the whole Think Tech team here, and I look forward to talking with you again next week.